Hi everyone, it's Abby from Rec3 here. Today I'm joined by Alison Alexander, co-founder and director of Ethics and Social Policy at Metacampus. And in celebration of International Women's Day, we're going to be chatting about why diversity is key to Web3's success. Alison, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Abby, for inviting me. Really lovely to be here with you, especially on such an important International Women's Day. I see it as the whole week is International Women's Week. I'm taking that. I'm just saying, get everyone to do something every day of the week. So this is fab.
Completely agree. I saw someone say a month, so it depends how long we think we can leverage it for. So, as co-founder and director of the Ethics and Social Policy at Metacampus, you work and develop with your team to find ways to better support a more inclusive society. Can you tell us a little bit more about that particular mission?
I mean, I think we established Metacampus because we overall, our kind of aha moment was that, heck, this new Web3 can really help us to equalise society. It can help us, firstly, bring the unbanked, and I'm going to say women unbanked, all genders unbanked, and also gave us an opportunity to remove bias by using the metaverse, especially in recruitment, or all of those ways, even by holding our identity on the blockchain. Today I was talking at an event where we hold our identity and I don't have to tell you my gender. I don't have to tell you certain things because actually all you need to know is I'm qualified at this. And that is why. So for me, we had, and Pera, who I co-founded and edited with, we absolutely had this aha moment. Oh my God, this is amazing. We can continue our journey. I'd worked for years in public sector at trying to constantly address inequalities, more about inequalities for whole communities. So for me, I feel our mission is about how do we use the tools of Web3 to continue that journey, to bring equity. And I think one of the things that I'd want to say to people is there is a real opportunity here for people who have not had the leading edge in the work environment, in the financial, to leapfrog over others because they didn't have those advantages. They're more prepared to work with the newness, if that makes sense to you. I was at an event today where people are talking about, oh, what is this? How is the blockchain? And other people who are bankless are going, wow, just give me a MetaMask, just give me a wallet, just give me an ETH address, because now I can just transact with people. I can store my identity on the blockchain. And they're just gobbling it up. And so for me, it's so important that firstly we help them do that, but also we help those who are not thinking of that as to how they can do that. I think there was a long-winded way to say that's why I kind of do what we do.
Definitely, I completely agree. I think the possibilities are endless, and I think being able to kind of take that with open arms is kind of the key to closing that diversity gap. So why do you think we see a lack of diversity in the tech industry as a whole?
Well, I think it's because people aren't, when we all grow up, we'll all start as kids, and actually we're not enticed into it. And that is changing. It's changing all the time. Now, I know that we're sitting here going, there's not enough, and there isn't enough. Yeah. But the number of girls who go into coding or tech or go into the sciences that could lead them into engineering, all of that, it is increasing, but it's not enough. And that's the kind of, it's the historic view of tech is for guys. I'm going to say art is for girls. Yeah, I mean, and sometimes I think people, and that's the bit about unconscious bias, isn't it? People don't even know when they're developing a curriculum or when they're setting up something, when they're writing the curriculum, how much it's orientated towards a certain gender. So it's so embedded. We've got to radically change all of it. So I think it's because it's not there on the curriculum. I think one of the things that's hugely assisting us to bring more women in, I want to say gaming. And I know the gaming community might have initially been more male heavy in usage, but actually they're shifting, whether that was COVID has helped shift that, but it's been increasing more and more. And even, I'm going to say, parents are starting to shift that, because actually when their kids are born, they're putting iPads in their hands and they're showing them how to kind of play games while you've only got to watch on a tube, on a train, and parents going to their kids, play with this, and it doesn't matter what gender they are. So the usability, people are becoming more familiar. So then when they go to school, to go into a tech classroom isn't as scary. So I think we've got it. Sorry, the short answer is we've got it because historically we've got these really big stereotypes and we haven't shifted that. And therefore the people who continue to be in those positions of hiring, they are also more in the male gender, in the majority. And we generally, there's an evidence base across everything that we recruit who we are as opposed to what we need sometimes. And so so that kind of perpetuates it. We didn't learn it at school, so therefore we learned less, and therefore that rolls more into the work environment. But I think we are on that cusp of change. There are so many more. The problem is we've got the start of Web3, and suddenly there's far fewer females standing there proud saying, I'm going to lead, I'm going to do this, than there are men. And so suddenly I'm really shocked. I'm a woman who's 55 this year, and literally I'm going, we had this gender fight years ago, like 30 years ago, like we cracked it then. And suddenly I've entered this world and I've found we haven't cracked it. We're like starting all over, but I don't think we're starting all over. I think the gaming world, I think the way kids are being brought up with phones, iPads, all of that, it's going to change the general interest. So I think we've got it because of stereotypes and we haven't quite broken out of that yet.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I mean, kind of on that note, I read recently that a staggering 87% of founding Web3 teams contain only men. What do you think are the main barriers of entry for women in Web3?
Well, I think sometimes I'm going to say women don't have enough time to play. And I know that sounds a silly thing, but to be a founder, you've probably got to have the time to, firstly, the time and the financial means to take a risk. So if you're a working mum, if you're a mum, I'm going to say it that way, you are both trying to work and manage children, and therefore you probably have less of a window to actually go find and do something that you really love. Okay, I really want to set up a Web3 company. I don't even have the time to think about that. I've got all this other stuff going. And there is something about that gender imbalance in households. Like I know there'll be loads of men standing and watching and going, no, there isn't, Alison, it's equal. It's not. It's still more heavily biased, whether it's women put themselves in that situation or men put themselves in that, it's still more heavily biased to women as the caretaker and all of that. So I think because of that, when you kind of, if you're a guy and you've got a job, some of your spare time you then tinker, and that gives you, it gives you an edge, it gives you the ability. And also, if you do that, you're then one step ahead of it. And then also, as we have to be honest, real, and there's always, like, I'm a woman who's earned like six-figure salaries, all of that, but it's the minority rather than the majority, where it's more of the majority of men than women. But it's saying actually they might have savings that they can say, do you know what? I'm going to take a punt. I'll give myself 6 months. I've met loads of guys who say I'm going to give myself 6 months. To be honest, I haven't met a lot of women who can say financially I'm going to give myself 6 months because they can't afford it. So I think it's because time sometimes, and I think also they're not mixing in the circuits in the right circuits. And I'm going to say that comes back to, and I know I'm talking practical, but that's it. If you're consumed the whole time, you're just getting on and doing, you don't have a space to lift up and look around and find new people to partner and play in a new field with. Because that's what setting up a startup is. It's starting a new venture. You've got to be prepared to support yourself, lose everything, and then quite quickly you've got to be able to fund everyone else. So I think there is. I think there is a responsibility for men to be much more mindful of that, and therefore to be looking at their own teams and saying, heck, what have we got here? And what do we need to do differently to make sure we are more equally balanced? The same as loads of teams are white. And if you look at the makeup of the world, like, I mean, I think it's about 11% Caucasians make up, yet they're still the largest percentage in those teams. So again, that's what we need to happen. We need those who are in those positions and lucky enough to be able to do that. Because it is about being lucky in a financial position to be able to invest in yourself, to say, I'm gonna do this. And I think they need to be looking internally and saying, actually, who makes up our company and what do I need to do about it?
Definitely. I think that's a really interesting way to look at it. And you kind of touched on my next question a little bit earlier, so I think it would be nice to chat about this a little bit more. Would you agree with the notion that Web3 offers more opportunity for diversity than normal tech?
It does, very much so. But it still comes back to the point, are we showing it to women? Are we showing it to people with different inabilities? Are we showing it to people of colour? Are we showing it? And if we're not showing it, them the opportunities, then we're going to end up the same with what we've got. And what I mean by that is, actually, Web3 isn't a tech world, is it? Yes, blockchain is tech, crypto is tech, metaverse is tech. But actually, being in the metaverse, once it's built, actually, you don't have to have a tech background to work in the metaverse. You can be an architect and work in the metaverse. You can be a designer and work in the metaverse. You can be a fashion designer. You can be a podcast writer. You can do copyright. You can be a lawyer. You can be an all of those things. And that's what I mean. Are we showing it to them that they can? So that's why I think there's more opportunity, because it isn't about being an engineer and being techie. It's about every single profession, customer services, social marketing, sales, every professional discipline, you can now come into the space. And actually, the great thing about this, because it's new, to a degree, whether you have a degree or any other qualification, could matter less. What matters most is that you know how to use the new emerging Web3 tools and the culture. And if you can demonstrate that, there are lots of opportunities for you to walk into the space.
So what more do you think could be done to get women into the industry and teach them more about the industry?
I think we need to look at it on, I'm going to say it, a macro and a micro level. Micro and macro, did that the wrong way around. I think at a macro, we do need governments, and I mean every government, to actually look strategically how they influence and how they shape education, so that then what we generate in the future is a much more equity in the people who are coming into all sorts, into the whole kind of tech world. If we focus just on being techie, again in finance, because the other big one is finance in this world. And so again, that's another area that women aren't naturally pushed into or encouraged. So we need to do that. We need everyone who is responsible for education, everyone, actually say, what am I going to do differently? How am I going to do it? We need everyone who's in charge of the media. I'm going to say TV, radio, news outlets. They need to be taking a hard look at what are they doing around images and selling those messages, so that we really do say to women, whether they see it on a bus or whether they see it on a tube or in a magazine, they know they're welcome to come in and they have every opportunity to do that. So I think that.
We've got a couple more minutes left. This one, for our last couple of questions, this is more directed at the women that are watching this that do want to further their Web3 career and their Web3 journey. So are there any organizations you know of, like, for example, in the automation industry, you've got Girls Who Code. Do you know any organizations like that that are more specific to Web3 that people could be a part of?
There is women, I mean, I know it's Women Who Code again, but there is Women Who Code, yeah, in the UK, there's women. I think some of the things that women should do is they could research, and I don't mean that in an intense way, they could just say NFT projects that are run by women. So World of Women, the Tuttle Tribe in America, it depends which country you're in. But what you could do is people could say, let me just put in NFT project founded by women, and go look at those. They could also look at Twitter spaces that are run by women, because that's another way to find ways to get in. They could do LinkedIn posts. People need to think really creatively. They need to just do a post. I'm looking for groups. That there's Florence, she runs one up in Newcastle, or Edinburgh, sorry, not Newcastle, and that's about women, and that's really good. But actually, you need to find it local to you. So what I would do is send out requests. Yeah, even go onto Twitter and look, go onto TikTok and look, yeah, Instagram, look at all these places. Definitely look at Twitter and make requests on LinkedIn. This is my location in my geographical area. Does anyone know of any particularly dedicated women's groups in the Web3 world? And people will respond to that.
Definitely. On a similar note to that, kind of in the interest of women supporting women, are there any women that you're connected to on LinkedIn or you follow on LinkedIn that you think are great advocates for Web3 that you would encourage others to go and connect with?
Oh yeah, definitely. Firstly, I would say to anyone, if you look at my LinkedIn and then look at all the women, like there's quite a few posts that we all tag each other. I mean, there's those that are in the art world, so Mel Horst, like Mel Hearts, then I really love their art. Then there's those who are in the fashion, Nova, who's in the fashion. Then there is loads on Daniela, who's from the emotional mental well-being side, Susan Bernis, who's in the kind of, again, in that kind of health or mental health way. So many different women. So I would do a post. If anyone is interested, send me a note, tell me what their professional discipline is, and I will send them links to those people. We do a monthly show. So Sharonda, who's a nurse. So again, nurse who sets up a nursing down. So Tammy, who is an AI artist. Yeah. So we've been starting over the last few weeks to do a show. Well, we've only done two, once a month, with Frank's team. So again, people could come and look at that, and then we could see, they could hear and talk to us, and we could tell them how they can find other women.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, Alison. I mean, hearing what you've had to say has been so interesting. I'm sure other people will feel the same. So yeah, like you say, if anyone wants to pick Alison's brains at all, then feel free to message her. And happy International Women's Day.
And you too. Have a lovely day, a week and a month.